All right. Hey, we are live. Hey, what is up, YouTube boxing family? It is Gay right here. Um, First of all, I want to say, yo, shout out to the NBA, but I'm sorry, man, but this All Star weekend was like the worst All Star weekend ever, and I don't know if I should make a video about that, which I'll probably will after this video before I go to bed, but I'm gonna be talking about some of the antics that happened in the dunk contest and the shoot and the like what NBA Skills Academy or like the Magic shot, whatever BS. But that's save for another video. But first of all, I just wanted to say congrats to Mr. Jaime Munguia. He obviously got a second round KO victory over Demetrius Ballard. That was a good fight. I thought Ballard had what it took to beat Munguia, but sadly and surely Munguia he disproved me, and that was a good fight. Um, I think honestly, like Munguia showed that he isn't built for 160 anymore. Obviously, he faced somebody that was just as big as him, but I think his punch resistance just wasn't there to handle, the pressure of like basically, um, Ballard wasn't able to handle the pressure of Munguia, and Munguia was able to dog walk him and do whatever he wanted to him. So I give my credits to Jaime. He did his thing. Also, shout out to the King, the former welterweight IBF world champion, Mr. Special K, Kell Brook, knocking out Mr. Amir Chen Khan in the sixth round. Shout out to Blue Blood Sports TV. I was supposed to make a prediction video about that, but I just didn't have the interest of talking about it, so I figured I'd just give like my post fight reactions to it, and then I just move on forward from there. So yeah, I mean, yeah, honestly, it's been a good night of boxing. Had a lot of great fights going on. Obviously, I wanted to cover the Jermaine Ortiz versus Nahir Albright fight card, but I wasn't able to watch all the fights, and I heard Showtime didn't really broadcast all the fights. They had like an untelevised preliminary prelims, which I don't understand why they can't put that on YouTube, because it's like that's very disrespectful to the fighters that actually put their lives on the line and they can't get any TV time. But on top of that, for the fighters that do fight on television, you don't even post their full fights. At least DAZN and PBC, they post their fights, but Showtime, they don't post shit. So it's like I feel like that's a waste of money for you subscribing to Showtime, and they don't give you all the content that you want to pay for as a subscriber to the network. So definitely that's a really big red flag for Showtime. I just don't understand why Showtime can't do that, because it's like I know that for certain big premier level fights like a Floyd Mayweather fight or maybe a Gervonta Tank Davis fight, they'll have like a replay for it. And I mean, if it's not there, then there will be other people that will come into the mix that will have those fights on a replay, but it's only certain particular fights that Showtime's willing to do versus like doing it every single fight that comes up, which I don't understand why Showtime can't do that, because it's like there's so many damn good fights out there that deserve to be put on YouTube, and they could have up to millions of views or whatsoever. Like I like me personally, like I would like to see that, because if I'm paying for the Showtime subscription, at least I'm getting all the free fights paid for through the subscription. So I don't know. I think honestly, man, it's just really disrespectful to the fighters, because for even fighters that I personally know, Even guys like Shenard Bunch. His fight with Janelson Figueroa, wasn't posted on YouTube. I mean, yeah, they had like the little Showtime highlights, but they don't even go that far of talking about how the fight really went down. So to me personally, I find that to be absolutely disrespectful to the fighters that actually want to have their names put out there, because if I'm going to the fight in person, at least I still want to see the fight posted on TV, because at least on TV you're able to actually review the fight and actually see what the fight can give to you, as far as like seeing what strengths and weaknesses that a fighter possesses. But either way, I hope that does get fixed and resolved in the future, because these networks that try to hold fighters, fight tapes, and try to like, basically dispose of it or not post it to the to the world or to the media, that doesn't make any sense. So I like to see that be put into play very soon in the future. But let's move on with Jaime Munguia and Demetrius Ballard, and then we'll just transfer over to Kell Brook and Amir Khan. I'll actually do Kell Brook and Amir Khan, and then we'll do Ballard versus Munguia. So, I mean, honestly, like Kell Brook, he did his thing. He had a really good fight with Amir Khan. It was just only a matter of time where Amir Khan just basically just broke down through the rounds, and then by the sixth round, he was absolutely done. Amir Khan, he could not handle Kell Brook's pressure. Amir Khan is not a natural 147 pounder, and Kell Brook looked like he was in there to kill somebody, and rightfully so. He did what he had to do. Kell Brook is nobody to be played with. He is a natural, come forward, inside, technical brawler, and that's what showed out of that fight between him and Munguia, where if you try playing with him, he's gonna mess around and stop you. So I think honestly that really showed a lot of holes out of out of Amir Khan's game. So what happened out of this fight was just that Amir Khan was not being intellectually sound in the fight alone, and he basically resorted back to his old tricks. He tried to mix it up with Kell Brook. He tried to think that he was just this macho man type of fighter where he could just go in there and start hurting Kell Brook, and then sadly, he got clipped, and every single round that he got into a exchange in, it kind of looked like he was breaking down like a statue. And yeah, it was really amazing, seeing that, because Kell Brook, he's just nobody to be played with. And I think honestly, how he scales, or how he did against Triple G and Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, shows that Kell Brook, he's lost to only world championship level fighters. He will never show any weakness to you against a guy like Amir Khan. But put him in the ring with somebody like I don't know, maybe like a Danny Garcia or Keith Thurman, any of those guys, like that'll definitely show the greatness of Kell Brook's ability to see how far he can actually go. See, now, does Kell Brook still have it at 147? Um, I would say yes if he wants to go that far, but I would say he just needs to be moved with guys that are only veterans. Don't put him in there with like young killers yet. I would save that for last. If he actually does mess around and actually do fight, a guy like Rashidi Ellis or Jaron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz or any of the top young killers like Radza Butev, Imanta Stanionis, and who else? Um, maybe even Michael Fox. Who knows? Like there's so much deadly competition. Like, I mean, even for all the young guys that are gonna come up from 140 to 147, like 147 will be ultimate glamour division that every 140 pounder has to understand, knowing, to move up and weight. So I think Kell Brook, he has a lot of food on his plate, and I think he knows that he has like a lot of money that's on the table that is going to be offered now, because knowing that he beat Amir Khan, in which Amir Khan, he's not a he's obviously not a welterweight, you know, built fighter. He's not a natural welterweight. That is a good win on Brook's, resume, as far as just Amir Khan himself, having this challenge be solidified. But obviously, this fight should have been happened when they were in their primes, and it actually would have definitely scaled out a lot better to make sure that the fight, would have sold a lot more, in the UK. And granted, knowing that these guys fought like at like 35 years old, I mean, this fight should have been happened like when they were like in their 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like, catch them at like 26 or 28, 29. Like, those glamour years, in their prime would have been a lot better. And granted, before anybody tries to roll right in here to try to tell me, well, you don't know what the hell you talking about. Amir Khan wanted to fight Kell Brook, and Kell Brook didn't want to fight Amir Khan, or Amir Khan didn't want to fight Kell because of promoter politics. Well, here's what the thing. Amir Khan and Kell Brook were at one point with Matchroom, at the same time frame when Kell Brook was about to leave Matchroom and then, make the move to go to Top Rank just to fight Terrence Crawford. And then if that couldn't get solidified, he was going to try to fight, Amir Khan, and then, try to get a possible match with Keith Thurman or maybe a Danny Garcia. But obviously, Amir Khan was supposed to be on the table like 3-4 years ago. So, a fight that was long overdue, that is now finally in the books. What this showed out of Kell Brook's career is that even though this was a fight way past his prime, it still shows that Kell Brook still has a lot of danger in his skill set at 147. And I don't know how much time he will have left in the division, but I would give it a good 2 to 3 years, and then he can give it up at that point. So, see now, my initial you know uh, I guess like matchmaking future that I would have for Kell Brook is where to go next from here. And I would say the next move that he should go for fighting potential fighters would be a guy like Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, maybe get a fight with Adrian Broner, or if he wants to go to the young gun route, maybe have a fight with, Conor Benn. I actually think a Conor Benn fight is actually a lot more dangerous, but it's a lot more telling to show to the rest of the welterweight division that, knowing that, Kell Brook is not, the young Kell Brook anymore. He is like, him defeating Conor Benn at the height of his prime will show that he's a threat to 147. But obviously, I don't think that would be like, profitable to Kell Brook's, offer, because it's like, he's in it to make money. He's not in it to just go in there and just get himself beat up, by some young gun. So I think honestly, like, I think Kell Brook is going to go the route of trying to get a fight with Keith Thurman. This is my prediction. So if that can't be solidified, I wouldn't mind a fight with Danny Garcia at 154, because Danny said he's willing to move up to 154. So I think Kell Brook would scale better at 154, and then that fight will actually sell big, in the UK. But obviously, if you want a regional, I wouldn't mind it in Vegas. Have it, in Vegas on a good PBC, undercard. Or actually, no, make it the main event and then have a guy like Jaron Ennis become a co-main, or have like Virgil Ortiz be like a co-main event or a third fight to last two fights. Like I personally wouldn't mind that. I think that's a good move, on the behalf of, who can, put that fight together. So I think that should be the next move for Kell Brook, to try to get a fight in with Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman says, he wants all the champions, but obviously, I don't think he's going to get up there. But I think, the right path for Keith Thurman to get his feet wet into the mix at 147 is to fight a guy like Kell Brook, because that fight has been long overdue. Keith Thurman is obviously not ready for the world title level yet. He needs to get, a couple more veteran level fights. Well, I want to say a couple, but just get more quality level victories. And then, when his number is called to be, a mandatory, then that's when I will say Keith Thurman, will be ready. But as of now, I will say go for prize fighting with all the veteran level opposition in the division. So I think that should be the next move for Kell Brook, to target Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman will be a good, credible win. And I mean, Keith Thurman has been avoiding Kell Brook for quite the longest, so I think that's also a good legacy rivalry type of fight, where Keith Thurman versus Kell Brook will be a very difficult fight. And Keith Thurman, his style, will be, very, competitive. But I think Kell Brook will definitely destroy Keith Thurman to the body, if it ever becomes an inside war. Um, I will also say that if Kell Brook and Danny Garcia fights, that fight will also be a huge, big statement fight from that point. Because if Kell Brook can mess around and stop Danny Garcia, especially at 154, Danny Garcia has never been stopped in his career, and every single one of his losses have either gone to the wire, or he's only been beat by the, extremely talented fighters like Errol Spence. When I'll probably say Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman fight was a good, neck and neck, nip and tuck fight. But Danny Garcia being defeated by knockout by Kell Brook is a huge career defining resume victory for Kell Brook. So I personally would like to see that. That should be a main event on Showtime or whatever. Get that together, or shit, put that shit on Matchroom, or put that shit on Sky Sports. Put it in the UK. I don't care. That's a big fight. And if Kell Brook wants to go the young gun route, I would suggest fighting Connor Benn. And then if he could get past Connor Benn, then you go through Virgil Ortiz, and then you beat Boots. Because Boots, he'll become a champion. But if Jaron Ennis fights Kell Brook by, like, let's just saying, like, oh man, this Kell Brook guy, he thinks he's good, man. Man, I'll knock him out, bro. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if Jaron Ennis does that before he becomes a champion, that's going to screw up the entire timeline for whatever big fight that we want to see in the welterweight division, i.e., Errol Spence versus Boots, or Boots versus, let's just say, Virgil. Like, anything in the particular mindset framework for what we could see out of a big fight. But I think Jaron Ennis should be fine. I don't think him and Kell Brook are ever going to see each other. But if they do see each other, it's probably going to be now rather than never, or rather than later. So I think the biggest issue is just that Kell Brook and Jaron Ennis just doesn't make sense right now. But I think at the state of 147, EJ and Bud are, like, EJ and Bud should definitely be seeing each other for undisputed. If not, those belts are going to be completely vacated, and then we already know who's going to be taking over, the welterweight division. And I think that's going to be Terrence Crawford, or no, not Terrence Crawford. I think it's going to be Jaron Ennis and possibly Virgil Ortiz. I don't think Virgil Ortiz, will be champion consistently, but he'll be a good candidate for being champion. And then I'll probably say, well, I mean, Butev, he's already a champion. So I don't know. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's kind of fair to just say that there's just so much smoke at 147 that's going to heat up. So I think it'll only be like a matter of time to see who's going to be champion, in the division. But most most importantly, it will definitely be Jerron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. Those will be the possible candidates. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Kell Brook fight. Let's talk about the Jaime Munguia fight. That fight was a good fight. Jaime Munguia did what he had to do, and Demetrius Ballard, he didn't really show anything spectacular other than just try to outbox Jaime, and then it just didn't go well from there because he was probably expecting Jaime to be, very stationary, just come forward and just use his punching power as a means of offense. But I don't see how that worked out because, he left himself wide open. He wasn't being defensively responsible, and then Jaime just took advantage of taking him down to the body, and then breaking him down with a body shot and then an upper hook, then a uppercut combination. So yeah, I mean Jaime did what he had to do, but from what I saw at the weigh-in, that just made me think. Otherwise, he got lucky to just showcase what he had to show against Demetrius Ballard because it kind of looked like Jaime was, super drained, man. It don't like, it don't look like he's making 160 smooth anymore. And I don't want to say that Jaime looks weight drained, but I got it like, from my own personal perspective, it makes me think Jaime is weight drained for 160. But if that's not true, then Jaime shouldn't have, been looking super drained or and looking super, exhausted. It like, to me, as a, person that looked, at fighters, at the weigh-ins, like, like through first impressions, it made me think through my mind that Jaime wasn't cutting weight, properly. And when you don't do that, then you're most likely going to be defeated in the fight when you break down late game, and then that's not going to help you scale into the fight. So I don't want to say Jaime should be fighting at 160 anymore because it doesn't seem like he's built for the weight class. And I think Jaime would scale a lot better at 168 rather than staying at 160 because he knows what's going to happen at 160 when he actually faces somebody that's just as big and just as strong as him, which I think, honestly, a guy like Austin Williams would not let Jaime hit him like that. He would actually pressure Jaime to the body and he would give Jaime a lot of trouble, with like the, inside trades. But I think the reason why Jaime gets away with all this pressure style fighting is because he's fighting guys, you know, he's fighting guys that don't throw back a lot of punches, and he's very, accustomed to fighting guys that he knows he can beat. So the style hasn't been difficult enough yet. And I think when that style does become difficult for Jaime to solve the puzzle, then I think that's when we'll see Jaime actually defeated in a fight where he can't figure out the style, and then that will make his fighting style, become a lot more dangerous. To understand how many flaws that he actually possesses. So I mean, Jaime, Jaime did good, but the performance that I saw from this fight was just that he had to get Demetrius out of there because he knew what happened at the weigh-in is gonna show, a lot of how should I say, a lot of endurance, deficiencies that was going to hold him back in the fight. So I think Jaime had to do that to make sure that the fans knew, hey, look, guys, I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with me, yada yada yada. But if it was the other way around, where Demetrius Ballard, he was whooping Jaime, and then he knocked him out in 2 rounds, and he actually, you know, looked really, unhealthy at the fight, and then he just broke down like super duper crazy, then everybody would be questioning about Jaime's health, at that fight. But knowing that he knocked out Demetrius Ballard, there's no questions needed to be, asked or needed to be answered. So that's what made me think inside my head, like, okay, is Jaime really just trying to just hide some tracks that we obviously don't want to see? Because if he want if he really wanted to, he shouldn't have had his team, uh, basically like how should I say, basically poorly manage his weight cut, and then leading up to the weigh-in, he looks absolutely sweaty. He doesn't look healthy. He had to lay down, and he looked like he was gonna pass out at the weigh-in. And Golden Boy was like covering that, that entire weigh-in, through the DAZN live stream. I think honestly they should have just cut that off and not show that, because it's like it makes us true hardcore boxing fans understand that Jaime, he's not a healthy, individual at that weight class. So if they had not shown that, then I would think inside my head like, oh, okay, well, Jaime is doing okay, and he'll be ready, to go for fight night. But that was not true. Jaime showed a lot of flaws out of that out of that weigh-in. But for some weird reason, on fight night, he was able to just get the job done and knock out Demetrius Ballard out. Like, to me, it doesn't make any sense, because it obviously shows that um, Jaime Munguia has a lot of physical flaws in his physique, where eventually he's going to be exposed by somebody that is just as big as him. And this obviously wasn't the fight to show it, but sooner than later in the future, it will show, the flaws out of his, curriculum that people don't want to see out of him. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I definitely give Jaime his credit. Demetrius Ballard was a good, sturdy opponent. He just didn't have the power to keep Jaime away from him. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what y'all think. And yeah, I think that's about it, man. So I appreciate you guys. I'll be back on tomorrow. Um, I'll definitely be covering the NBA All Star weekend. And yeah, I'll see you guys. So thank you very much. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.